Have you ever had an issue of overheating in your car, yet the cooling system is working just fine? What do I mean by the cooling system is working just fine? I mean the radiator is not clogged up and it's working as it should. Your thermostat is working as it should. Your water pump is working perfectly. And even the radiator hoses, they are not clogged up and they are not leaking. That simply means that there are no coolant leaks. And the fan is operating as it should. Yet you have overheating in your car. Let me highlight about another component that can result into overheating in your car. That is what we call the oil cooler. Over here, I've got two oil coolers. I've got an old oil cooler and a new oil cooler. So let's understand what is an oil cooler, what does it do, and what are the effects of a faulty oil cooler. So let me put this one down and just use this one for explanation. When you look at it, it's got two pipes, this one and this one. And when you look at the underside, you've got two entry points. An oil cooler is basically a radiator, as in its working operations or its working principles is the same as those of a radiator. It's just that the radiator cools the coolant, but oil cooler cools the oil in your car. So what happens? We all know that engines operate at very high temperatures. If the engine is operating at high temperatures, oil too is also getting heated up. That is because oil is used for lubrication of the engine components, and at the same time, it is used for heat dissipation. So if your engine is really heated to high temperatures, it goes without telling that the oil too is also at very high temperatures, and that is where the oil cooler comes into place. What happens is that hot oil gets into the oil cooler. Inside here, there are fins and vents that the oil circulates through, and then it gets through the other pipe as cooled oil. So the advantages of cooled oil is that it ensures proper lubrication. That means that the engine components will be properly lubricated, the turbo components will be properly lubricated, and also heat will be properly dissipated, as in preventing overheating in your engine, preventing overheating in your turbo. We all know the effects of overheating in your engine. When your engine is overheated, it simply means that it will not work efficiently as it should. If it does not work efficiently as it should, that results into reduced performance, reduced efficiency. When we come to your turbo, when your turbo is really it's overheated, then it will fail over time. And that is why oil is very essential in the operations of a car. So here we have an oil cooler. It ensures that the oil is operating at optimum temperatures. So enhanced lubrication, enhanced heat dissipation. So what happens when the oil cooler is faulty? So first thing, it may result into oil leaks. When it results into oil leaks, it simply means that the oil levels in your car will be going down. If the oil levels in your car go down, it results into something we call heat deprivation. Oil deprivation. Now with oil deprivation, it means that lubrication will be compromised, heat dissipation will be compromised, resulting into more wear and tear. More wear and tear simply means that you will have a high cost of maintenance of both the engine and your turbo. Number two is what we call contamination of oil. So you might wonder, what is contamination of oil? Contamination of oil simply means that oil and coolant may mix. And when engine oil and coolant mixes, they form something we call a milkshake. Okay, I know you might wonder, why am I calling it a milkshake? I'm calling it a milkshake because the component that is formed when oil and coolant mixes has a milky appearance. That is why I'm calling it a milkshake. And now that compromises on both the lubrication and the cooling. Why is that so? When engine oil and coolant mix, first of all, the functions of oil, they are compromised. The functions of the coolant are compromised. So that is a catastrophic, it will have a catastrophic effect in your engine. Another thing is what we call overheating. And now that is where I want to insist. I said it leads into oil leaks, contamination. Those two factors result into overheating. Why overheating? When you have oil leaks, it results in oil deprivation. When you have oil deprivation, you've definitely compromised on the lubrication and heat dissipating capacities. That will result into higher temperatures in your engine, resulting into overheating. Now, when oil is contaminated, it simply means that you've taken away the lubricating effects, you've taken away the heat dissipation effects, and at the same time, you have compromised on the cooling effect from the side of the coolant, resulting into overheating. That is why an oil cooler is something that you should have, as in you should ensure that it is operating as it should. It's not faulty, it's not leaking, and there is no oil contamination. So, what do you do when your oil cooler is faulty? Before I get into what you should do, let me first insist and highlight on this. Oil coolers are not in all cars. Just the same way that V-Power is not used on all cars, the same to oil coolers. Oil coolers are only fitted in high-performance cars and heavy trucks. Why is that so? That is because when it comes to high-performance cars and heavy trucks, they have one thing in common. A lot is expected from them. That means the engine is operating at very high temperatures. When the engine is operating at very high temperatures, it goes without saying that the oil too is operating at high temperatures. That means we need the oil at optimum temperatures for effective performance, for efficiency, and for it to deliver as it should. When it comes to trucks, there's a lot of very high, as in there's a high load capacity that the truck is carrying or even towing. So a lot of work is being done by the engine to ensure that it delivers. That is where an oil cooler comes into play. It's only in high performance cars and heavy trucks. The same thing with an intercooler. Did you know that not all turbocharged cars have an intercooler? No, not all of them. Intercoolers are only in specific turbocharged cars. There are some components that are not meant for all cars. They're meant for specific cars. That is because of maybe what is expected of them. What do you expect to, as in what is the car expected to deliver? If it's high performance, then it has to be fitted with extras. If it's high load capacities, it requires extras. And now that is why the oil cooler is only in heavy trucks and high performance cars. So if your oil cooler is faulty, what should you do? The first thing you need to do is go to a trusted mechanic. When you go to a trusted mechanic, they will identify the issue and they will rectify the issue with a lot of professionalism so that the oil cooler or even your car at large will serve you better. Let me caution on this though. When you go to replace your oil cooler, be warned of counterfeit. Counterfeit products have really found their way into our markets and they're really messing up car owners big time. So when you go to replace your oil cooler, always ensure that you have gone for a genuine oil cooler so that it can serve you better and it can serve you longer. So there you have it. The next time you have an issue of overheating, always check into your oil cooler. It might be the culprit. And now finally, if you've not yet subscribed to my YouTube channel, kindly subscribe. This is where I share informative and educative car content tailor-made just for you. Thank you.